What inspired your decision, Watcher? Did the choice echo your foundational beliefs? Or were you influenced by observation?
Well, there's an interesting option over here. So Raotai know how to respond to a threat. The future will need their cunning. History is written by... This is an option 1. The option 2. History is written by survivors. It would be responsible to prop a lesser authority up, which is a very fashy option here, but it is an option. I wanted to prove Woodica... Then it sounds like Gallowayne, sort of. I wanted to prove Woodica wrong. She thinks mortal cooperation is destined to fail. She does think that, doesn't she? No, it's not as simple as that, but yeah. Someone made me an offer and I took it. Nothing personal, and I don't owe you any explanation. Let's go with the Woodica one. Sounds interesting.
Woodica has been especially active since the downfall of her favorite operative. Have you ever considered that she is mentoring his replacement?
That's a troubling thought.
My brothers and sisters never act when the gains are strictly short-term. If Woodica's shadow has fallen upon you, that can only mean she recognizes your potential to further her ambition. I thank you for your perspective. Yours is not the only opinion that concerns me, but for the moment, it offers much to consider. All I ever wanted for mortals was growth, transformation. Once, my brothers and sisters shared this goal. Some have forgotten themselves, giving into fatalism or tyranny. Others have succumbed to apathy. It brings me great sorrow that crisis is the only way to set the future in motion. Would that I could pass the responsibility of heralding your darkest hour to another. Never forget that trust and coordination between mortals brought you to this place. Your future is built on a foundation of hope, and you have laid the first stone.
Crisis is the only way to set the future in motion. That very much is in line with what he has said so far, and the way he has acted so far. And it's kind of complicated because the thing is what is really changing, or rather, where that statement pivots is the definition of future. Crisis is not the only way to set the future in motion. The lack of crisis also sets the future in motion. It's just necessarily a different kind of future. I mean, it could be the same, I suppose. Things can be gradual. It's just that some things require a stark break, and some futures can only be brought up by crisis. But that really, instead of focusing on, whether or not you should make a crisis, it sort of focuses on whether the problem that you have at hand can be resolved through a crisis or not, or rather, whether it requires a crisis in the first place. And does it? Killing the gods? I just don't think we can kill the gods. That's a problem. It's just not an option. It's from a plot device, from a plot perspective, and certainly from a lower perspective. Lower perspective, not lower. Before this is over, it's my turn to ask the questions.
Ask. You are entitled to any answer that is mine to give.
What happens after the wheel breaks?
The great work of the Ingwithans falls to ruin. Reincarnation as we know it will end. Souls which currently await new life in the beyond will be born into the world as normal, but their numbers will not replenish. Anything that dies will tarry in the void of the in-between, awaiting the motion of a wheel that no longer turns. Once the beyond has emptied, every birth will be hollow-born. Other maladies of the soul may follow and plague those who linger in life.
This is the problem that I've been talking about here. This is the crisis that he's causing. This is the issue.
Unless mortals work together to carve a new path, The essence of life will be trapped in the netherworld. Gods will starve. Aora will grow silent and cold.
The gods will starve is the upside of that. How long will Aora... Oh, how long until Aora is devoid of all life?
A generation or more. That much essence is already poised to flow into Aora. But unlike an hourglass, no amount of turning will compel the sand to reverse its course. Should you choose, you could lay down your burden and trust in your children's children to set matters right. That depends entirely on you. By your reckoning, there are still good years to come. By ours, time is short.
Mortals aren't the only ones in jeopardy, though. What you're doing threatens the gods. I'm not going to say that. I mean, I will say that because I don't think there's a consequence to me saying that, but that's out of character. Yeah, no, duh, it threatens the gods. And I think that is a point, or that is not the that is my point. I'm not sure if that is an intended consequence for him, but also me not being sure of that is also why I'm going to choose this option, because I want to hear him say it if it's his point, if it's his idea.
Yes. They must work toward a solution or perish. If that task is beyond their skill, then they no longer deserve their position.
They don't deserve their position as it is.
I would have them justify their right to lead.
They don't have any right to lead.
That could mean swallowing their pride and hearkening to the wisdom of mortals. Some, I expect, will perform better than others.
Why won't reincarnation just go back to how it was before the wheel?
When we tamed the cycle of reincarnation, we broke what had once functioned naturally and without intervention. The flow of essence will not normalize on its own. Essence will simply pool in the void of the in-between, never passing through Adra networks to the beyond. The dead will be left to wander in darkness, confusion, and sorrow.
How can anyone trust the gods after what you've done?
No one is worthy of unconditional trust. If you feel the gods are beyond forgiveness, then they don't deserve your obedience. Make your future one that doesn't require them.
Our present doesn't require them.
Should you choose to accept the gods, I hope that you temper your faith with skepticism.
That was also the, Iovara also was a character specifically designed to argue that people didn't need gods. And Theos Ix Arcanon was always a person who was all about that. Very much an embodiment of Vorica. Him being her disciple, that, or her tool or whatever, that Eothas was talking about before. It's just in hindsight that it really crystallizes what exactly those two characters were about. I mean, Theos is very blatant, though. An interesting character. Theos is an interesting character. I think they did a better job with villains in Tyranny than they did in Pillars of Eternity 1. In this game, the villains are a lot more hidden. So I like that, certainly. Woodica sees this as a test, one we're destined to fail.
Woodica is entitled to her opinion. If the intent of this test is to justify an uprising to come, that is more worrisome. The other gods must decide for themselves if mortals are ready to dictate their future. Should Woodica's tyranny prove the only alternative, mortals must prepare for a terrible conflict. Your perspective bridges eternity, Watcher. Many will look to you to mediate differences that could shake the very foundations of Aora.
You've had millennia to do this. Why now?
For several reasons. My strength was diminished after the Godhammer bomb, and assuming this form took incredible effort. With so many vying for control of the Deadfire, I also saw a ripe opportunity for mortals to cast aside their differences and stand together as one. They have never been more powerful, more capable, Because of this, the gods must justify their importance or be proven obsolete.
I haven't forgiven you for Cadnua.
I apologize, Watcher. There is nothing I can do to restore the glory of your hard-won and poorly situated estate. What happened to Cadnua was not personal in nature. I would have occupied the statue even if it was buried beneath Defiance Bay. Given your perseverance, I know that a second home cannot be distant in your future. You have only to seek it out.
That's such a fancy. That's very much. It's not fancy. Not fancier than his other speech, but that is a fancy way of saying, nah, you're gonna get another house. Don't worry about it. That's so nice that it's just in the same style as the rest of his dialogue, but for such a menial sentence or feeling. That's all. What happens next?
I must attend to my final work now. I cannot delay any longer. You have carried a heavy burden across the Deadfire, Watcher. Before I go, I would rid you of it.
Is that the thing that I have in the belly thing? Barath's thing? No sooner have Heothas' words entered your mind than you hear one final distant ring of the chime within you, and then silence. The knot that formed when the pallid knight first addressed you in the beyond is now gone.
You are free now, as free as any of us can be. Many will come to you for help in the years ahead. Animancers, priests, even the gods themselves. I have great hope for you, but always remember that your future is for you to decide. Use your freedom well.
Aethys squares himself to the machine. As you move to a safe distance, he draws his fist back and resumes his assault. The blows rain down with increased fervor, but the machine perseveres in spite of his efforts. Spreading his arms wide, Aethys draws power from the luminous Audra clustered around the valley. The energy courses through his body, limbs overflowing with intense light and waves of heat. He returns to his task, each strike bringing with it the sound of cracking stone and twisting metal, the flickering of luminous Audra across Ukaizo. As the ancient machine finally begins to succumb to his strength, so too does Aethys' body, built to withstand the passage of thousands of years. The great Audra statue has finally been pushed beyond its limits. Cracks appear along the hands, then race up the arms. Aethys does not slow his assault, but continues unabated. Its brass rings twisted, the machine spins erratically but withstands the relentless barrage. Aethys stands astride it and pummels the base of the machine. Soul energy begins to flare out from the machine's heart, warping the air with the intense heat. Aethys drives his right fist into the machine's center, the core of metal and Audra. The god lets out a deafening shout, something between a cry of anguish and a roar of exultation. You see Aethys' arm shatter upward from his hand through his elbow. A flash of light and heat bursts from the core, accompanied by a cacophony of destruction. The moment passes. As Aethys' shout echoes throughout the valley, your eyes begin to recover. The god's work is accomplished. The great machine of Ukaizo has been destroyed. The wheel has been unmade. As Aethys' voice fades, the enormity of what you've accomplished sinks in. You have confronted a god. You have rediscovered the ancient city where the wheel was forged, and you have seen the wheel shattered. What comes next is uncertain, but already the legend spreads of the Watcher, who survived Andra's mortar and stood toe-to-toe with Aethys. As the light of thousands of souls leaves Maras Nua's body, Deadfire quakes, the sea churns. All around the archipelago, long forgotten Angwithan ruins rise from the rubble and the waves, a lost bounty of ancient knowledge now laid bare for Kith. Priests, mystics, and visionaries around the world dream of ancient pasts. Scholars delve into the annals of history. All of Aora gazes backward to find its way forward. What remains to be seen is whether Kith will find the same answers the Angwithans did, and whether they will apply them to the same effect.
I hope not. Although, there's no reason why they wouldn't, to be honest. Because of the, well, power.
As Rauatai's engineers had predicted, turning off the machine at Andra's spire calms not only the storms of Andra's mortar, but also those in Rauatai. For the first time, citizens of the mainland admire the beauty of sea and sky, without wondering when they will unleash destruction. The changes to Rauatai, however, extend far beyond the weather. Rauataians had long forged their identities around enduring hardship and laboring together. But over time, as their cities and crops flourish under sunny skies, they find they need one another less. Inevitably, some lament this softer, easier life. Others point to national self-reliance, to burgeoning industry, to families that did not have to send their kin abroad, as evidence that the new ways are vastly preferable to the old. Besides, Rauataians everywhere still share a purpose more urgent than any the world had ever known: reforging the cycle of reincarnation. The changes to Deadfire are just as significant. The Ranganui declares the archipelago an extension of his empire, and his administrators waste no time in making that true in deed, as well as in word. Rauataian gunships patrol Deadfire, hunting down pirates and smugglers, including the Principe. Divided as they are, the pirate nation stands little chance against the organized might of Rauatai. Aldi's keeps them fighting until the very end, losing most of her ships in a grand battle that Rauatai's lore chanters will sing about for years to come. As Rauataian farmers, merchants, and laborers move to the archipelago, there is little room and less patience for the Valian Trading Company. The Ranganui soon forces the Valian Trading Company to surrender its holdings in Deadfire, straining relations with the republics. Rauatai knits its new archipelago together with all the tools of government and infrastructure. New ports spring up across Deadfire, guarded with sturdy Rauataian bronze and run with dispassionate Rauataian efficiency. Most Huana remain, even as their homeland changes around them. Their huts and lodges are cleared to make way for towns of stone and brick. The walls that are built to protect them also cut them off from the freedom of the open sea. Those Huana who trade caste and prize share for Rauataian unity and striving prosper. Others mourn the passing of their queen and see the end of their way of life as a precursor of the doom of Aora. The mysterious deaths of Governor Clario and Storm Speaker Ikawa provoke hostilities between the Valian settlers and the Huawan residents. What starts with angry words escalates to retaliatory killings as each side blames the other. By the time anyone bothers to question the strange coincidences surrounding their deaths, including reports of a cloaked Omawi woman seen in both the port and the village, both sides have gone too far to turn back.
This was the people that Maya killed on that special mission, I believe.
The chaos makes it easy for a small Rauataian contingent to swoop in and establish control over the island. Within days, they eject the remaining Valians and pacify the Huana. Port Marge becomes a valuable outpost, and one that allows Rauatai easy control over the southern end of Deadfire. It is, by all accounts, a smooth and exceedingly well-run operation. As the balance of power changes in Deadfire, so too does Nekataka transform. While Hazanui Karu directs her fleet from Ukaizo, Atsura stays behind to manage Nekataka. Under his oversight, sturdy walls and artillery batteries rise to protect the city. Ships bearing settlers from Rauatai and staple goods from the archipelago churn the waters of Queensbirth. And despite the vacancies at Kahanga Palace, Atsura retains his simple quarters in the Brass Citadel. The pirates continue smuggling food into the gullet, and the Raparu embrace their benefactors, aiding and concealing their smuggling operations. Over time, the gullet becomes a hotbed of piracy.
This honestly should have been addressed differently because it's the Rawatai that's taking over. I find it difficult to understand that the Roparo would be allowed to stay Roparo if it's run efficiently. But I don't know. Because the Rawatai has such a huge influence over the Juana life that this should have been addressed. And I think this is just the ending that you get when you help the Roparo, basically.
The Anguithan and Juana ruins that Aethys reveals hold many surprises for the Water Shapers Guild. Though they yearn for the knowledge still hidden in Ukaizo, what they learn amidst their people's ruins spreads and strengthens the practice of water shaping across the archipelago. Your brief encounter with Letharn proves deeply influential for the children of the Dawnstars. Plagued with nightmares and haunted by the deaths at Hesango, Letharn begins questioning his faith in Aethys. At first, his fellow Dawnstars chide him, but that changes as word of Aethys' deeds at Ukaizo spreads. After all, what business have they worshipping a god who denied his own legitimacy? The faith of the children of the Dawnstars fades, but their commitment to the people of Deadfire does not. They continue feeding, healing, and helping the neediest, just as they have for decades. It is no longer a holy mission, but it is a mission all the same. Ruanu, the chieftain of the Juana at Tikawara, dies mysteriously. The tribe finds his body washed up on the same beach where Anaharu challenged him to the trial of waves. Some blame Anaharu's vengeful spirit. Others see it as Ngati's final judgment. And a few speak of a strange man seen lingering in the village.
I don't remember what that was, or what this might be, but I think it's a reference to somebody that we helped.
Atsura sends a ship with food, aid, and a small garrison of soldiers to the unfortunate village. The leaderless tribe is all too happy to accept Rawatai's generosity. They return the favor by reaching out to other far-flung tribes on behalf of their new benefactors. The dragon, Neraskirlas, no longer passes between Aora and the White Void, and the dead flow slowly breaks apart, exposing the temple long frozen within. Under Halfyorn's guidance, the Harbingers of Dusk resettle within Remergon's temple, vowing to forever protect it from the defiling touch of outsiders. Over time, the group becomes increasingly reclusive and fanatical, attacking any who dare approach their holy site. In besting the Beast of Winter, you earned the Death God's mercy rather than his enmity. The deity remains characteristically unforthcoming about his decision, and you're left to wonder whether in doing battle with him in the White Void, you somehow furthered his apocalyptic ambitions. Once repaired, the Adra at the primal island of Kazuwari again pulses with the flow of soul essence between the here and the beyond. The feral life on the island flourishes, the jungles and veld growing ever wilder and resistant to settlement and exploration alike. The faces of the hunt continue to rule the Crucible and Gallowayne's, or rather, Tawamawai's name. The trials summoned by the statue grow deadlier with each season, until only those rare few willing to brave the gravest of dangers seek out the bloody ordeals of Kazuwari. Like the other souls following in your wake, Muatu eventually yearns to move on to the beyond and the wheel.
No wheel.
Stymied by Aethys' actions, however, he settles on returning to Kazuwari, where he joins the choir of souls that echo throughout the Crucible. Hundreds of kith, and no small number of Wilder and Primordials flee from the Black Isle, their minds a confused collection of inconsistent and contradictory memories. Each escapee bears knowledge that was once lost, and agents of the Hand Occult across Aora work tirelessly in the years that follow to hunt down and end these fugitives. They find far fewer than they hope.
That's the wrong bear. That's not correct. I think that's a typo.
Encouraged by her arcane successes, Bakarna returns to her observatory to continue her studies of the celestial spheres. In time, her colleagues in the Circle of Archmagi come to accept her among their number. She takes on apprentices, and they trumpet her praises as both a brilliant innovator and nurturing pedagogue. Slain by your hand, the Titan of Wal poses little further threat to Aora. As the corpse decays, it putrefies into a massive nest of hungry fungal monstrosities.
Nice.
Vessels that anchor off the shores of the Black Isles tend to go missing, only to turn up shipwrecked months or even years later against distant shores. With time, the body collapses upon itself, and the Black Isles finally implode. Though your adventures alter the destiny of Aora and the balance of power in Deadfire, they also leave a lasting mark on those who travel at your side. Your companions find themselves changed in ways both big and small.
Pallegina doesn't.
Adair returns to Hisongo, where he reunites with Byrne, the son of his former lover, Alava. The boy takes heart in Adair's account that Aethys and all the other gods were false, petty, and unworthy of the love of Kith. Realizing how close he came to dying for this cause, Byrne finds renewed purpose in working alongside his uncle to repair the many scars left upon Deadfire by the gods. Under Adair's guidance, Byrne grows into the kind of irreverent, stubborn hothead that would have made his mother proud, and Adair visits her gravesite, often to tell her so. It's hard not to notice how Shodi follows Maya everywhere she goes. The two seem nigh inseparable, and can often be found talking, laughing, fishing and target practicing, or sharing drinks and kisses before sneaking below decks for some privacy. Shodi is not a priestess who understands the meaning of subtlety. As such, she makes her girlish crush on Adair painfully obvious from the moment she first sets eyes on the strapping fighter. Early in your travels, Adair appears discomforted by her persistent flirting. He often grimaces when she sidles up to him, and he takes endless pains to keep their conversations terse and to the point. But after a little smoothing on your part to nudge them in the right direction, Adair makes an effort to view Shodi with an open mind. And Shodi begins teasing the veteran fighter in a more companionable and less amorous manner. After saving each other's hides a couple times and sharing more than a few laughs, the two form an easy, and you suspect, lifelong friendship. Seemingly lit with an inner glow, Shodi takes to a new life of mission work with gusto. She still is committed to shepherding souls forgone, but having realigned her goals with that of her fellow Dawn Stars, she now endeavors to help the living as much as the dead. As you travel the Deadfire, you find her sleeping better and laughing more often. When the time comes for her to return to her temple in Neketaka, it's with a clear wistfulness and much lip-biting on her part. She leaves you with her sickle and a hastily scrawled note. It reads, "A keepsake from a path once walked. Remember me, Watcher, for I will forever dream of you."
Shodi is the real main character right now. I'm calling it. She's the one that has the biggest arc in all the choices that I made.
If Aloth has learned one thing from your adventures, it is that the forces shaping the world are vaster and more complex than he had ever imagined. and they are far beyond anyone's power to control. Thus, it is with great relief that he abandons his labors against the Leaden Key. Without Theus at the helm, it will crumble in its own time. The best he can do is stand back and allow it to happen. You let Romaro go, and the former pirate ostensibly set sail for the trade lanes of the Eastern Reach, the Edier Empire, Old Valia, and the Republics. For the remainder of your time together, Seraphin seems, if not exactly happy, at least contented with the outcome of your confrontation with his former mentor at Sayuka. And yet, when the two of you part, Seraphin seems emboldened, invigorated by a new sense of purpose. He buys you a drink, toasts to the Deadfire, says, let's see if we can make something worth a shit out of what's left of these Principe swabs, and sets sail the next morning. In the years to follow, rumors occasionally reach you of the Blue Orlan pirate of the Deadfire, a privateer captain as keen to free slaves or fight for an influence as he is to plunder and pillage. Time away from the Navy gives Maya Rua some perspective on how Rawatai conducted the Deadfire occupation. No sooner does she return to active duty than she voices her frustrations over some of the more underhanded tactics she witnessed and carried out in the name of the homeland. Her voice carries all the way to the Ranganui, who reminds his admirals that battles are won by superior tactics, but war is a battle of precedent, and winning is not always a victory. The people listen. Though Maya's covert assignment in the Deadfire is considered a success, few claim knowledge of it or openly congratulate her. She receives no praise beyond knowing glances or the occasional raised tankard from her countrymen. She never responds.
Specifically in the previous vignette, I wonder what other I can check any of these endings in the wiki to see what unlocks things, because the wikis tend to be very complete for these games. But I wonder what the other options are for her, because that seems such an inevitable thing for the way I know Maya. I mean, I guess that's her good ending, because it definitely was good. So, yeah, the other options are probably not that.
Maya's part in the conquest of Ukaizo brings fame and fortune to the Rua family. Officers salute her in passing, and a row of medals decorate the breast of her uniform. Her parents and siblings are paraded between the great houses of Rawatai for nightly dinners and celebrations. She has a hero's welcome in her future. Whenever you come across Maya, Shodi is never far off. The two of them spend every available hour sharing stories over drinks, dangling their feet over docks, or exploring strange temples by the light of Shodi's lantern. They're good for each other, and they both seem to know it. She looks forward to seeing her brother again. So does Ashiza.
I was gonna say, what about Ashiza?
Takehu distances himself from the problems of the Deadfire, giving the tribes a reprieve from godlike omens. Ngati's silence speaks volumes. The Huana grow to rely on each other, paving a new way forward divorced from their traditions. Soon after his departure from Nekataka, sailors report of mountainous water sculptures rising from the open sea, entrancing and salacious. These works are celebrated everywhere, from the brothel to the palace, though the identity of the artist remains an open question. As your paths diverge, Takehu leaves you with a protracted and energetic farewell. He has work to do in the Deadfire, but his heart, and he insists the rest of him, is yours. You make promises to see each other again on different shores. Your pursuit of Aethys and your journey to Ukaizo signal the end of forces that have shaped the lives of Kith and the course of nations. The cycle of reincarnation has been broken. The storms of Andra's mortar have calmed. Yet each ending promises a new beginning. As the sun rises over Ukaizo, Kith turn their gaze eastward, wondering at what lies beyond. and at the world they will fashion for themselves. As the Watcher of Cadnua and the former Herald of Berith, you return to your ship and begin the long journey home. You hope for calm weather.
That is such a bittersweet story, really. Effectively, we were trounced by a god to pursue. We were basically doomed to pursue that god because of the part of us being in with the god, inside the god, and we sort of got that back. But the last stretch of the journey turned out to be futile, really. We could never stop Eothas. But the game hid that on purpose. The game absolutely hid the just impossibility of our quests. And in the end, we just couldn't do it. But there's also no deliberation about that. There's no... I mean, I guess I didn't... But I was gonna say, I guess I didn't choose to be like, no, I want to stop you. I don't think I had that option at all. I think it's impossible to get our character to be frustrated at the end and just be like, you know, I wanted that to stop. I wanted Deothas to not do what he did. Because, yeah, it's an interesting story. It could be told in a completely different light. It absolutely could be told in a completely different light. So I don't know to what extent there was a different story behind there, or what more, or a hope of a different ending, something that got cut at the end. Because imagine you are to tell this story and you make a game from the beginning thinking about this story. That you would want to play up that futility at the end. You would want to make some points about, right? I would anyway. Some points about how the gods are so much more powerful than any of us. That we together can do nothing. Right? Or did I miss something? Maybe I could have united the people. I don't know. Maybe there is another ending. I doubt it, though. Pillars of Eternity 1 was meant to have a diverging storyline halfway through. There's a certain part of the game where there is a very important death. And then you go on to the last areas of the game, an area that basically gets cut off from the beginning. At the beginning of the game, you can't go to the east, and then during that important part of the game, those areas to the east get open. So who is Eothas? Who is Eothas? Oh man, I'm not gonna find it. Oh, I can't see anything. Whale. I can't see Eothas. I guess I can do that if I want to. I was trying to figure out who Eothas was. Actually, let's find out. Oh no, that's terrible news. Terrible things that I do. Oh no, this is the voice actors. Okay. No, to the other one. That's the one. No. Good. Okay. Oh, I can't scroll. Yeah, I don't think Eltha's in here. We got Ramaro, Widla. Whale. Eltha's might be here, but it's like, what? How do you expect me to find that? It's good that it's all in here, because I don't think the first game had the characters for each voice actor. It just listed the voice actors, which was a pain, because you like to know about these people. But I don't see Eltha's in this list, so maybe down here. We're going for whale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope. Oh my god, why does the... Padding in things, come on. Okay. The rotted lady for Woodika as well. There's other voices. No, the other one was whale. Yeah. Elthas is somewhere, but I didn't see. Well, you might have seen it. But anyway, yeah, so after that, so in Pillars of Eternity 1, at that end, that death, there was going to be originally a way to stop that death from happening, or choose for that death not to happen. And then you'd have a different story at the end, slightly different story anyway. But because of time constraints, they couldn't implement that, and they cut that fairly early on in the development as well. So they'd never really wasted time doing things for that other path, or didn't waste too much time doing things for that other path. But yeah, so that there's definitely a feeling that there was more to tell at the end, or more to, not to tell, but sort of explore, more themes to explore, because that was just futile. In hindsight, it was impossible. Unless I'm misunderstanding this. And of course, if I am, let me know in the comments, please. Thank you so much for joining me for this enormous Let's Play. It is the longest Let's Play I've done. The second longest would be Morrowind for 242 episodes. This one definitely past that, although I think Pathfinder Kingmaker might pass this one in terms of time, in terms of how many hours the game took. But this is the biggest game. This is the biggest game that I've ever played. I don't think there's any bigger RPG. Like, no way. I don't think there is. This is just the biggest game. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I am Colonel RPG, and this has been Pillars of Eternity 2. I really hope you've enjoyed it. And don't forget to leave a like and a comment down below. Bye-bye.